Love to fabricate? Have you used a plasma cutter yet? If you haven't, stay tuned. This next video is for you. Hello, my name is Hector Velazquez and welcome to another episode of GCSAA Inside the Shop. Today we're going to be talking about plasma cutting. We have a project going on and we're going to be using the plasma cutter. Now before we get started, let's figure out what is plasma cutting. So this is from the GCSAA Equipment Management Certificate Program Study Guide, Metalworking and Fabrication. Plasma cutting is a process that cuts through electrically conductive materials by means of an accelerated jet of hot plasma. Typical materials cut with a plasma torch include steel, stainless steel, aluminum, brass, and copper, although other conductive metals may be cut as well. Handheld plasma cutters can cut materials from 1/16 of an inch up to 1.5 inches thick. Because plasma cutting is easier to control and more precise than other metal cutting methods, it is becoming the preferred method for fabricating, job shops, and manufacturing. Now I'm using a welding helmet set to shade 5, a good pair of leather gloves, not so thick that you lose your dexterity though. And then I'm also using a leather apron, and of course safety glasses underneath your helmet. Now, there's several things that we need to talk about for you to start getting proficient at plasma cutting. One, we got to make sure that we don't have any contact between that nozzle and the workpiece. Also, you can travel too slow or you can travel too fast. You could not have enough voltage, not have enough PSI. All these factor into how good your cut gets. Now, this is a little heavy. I was a little slow. But a lot of times that slag will knock right out. Now after talking about this stuff and a little practice, hopefully you can get better cuts than this. We're going to be using the Lotus CT520D. This is a 3-in-1 machine, 220, and we're going to be using the plasma torch, so we're going to get the gas line hooked up. And be sure to follow your OEM specs, their instructions. And here we're installing our signal line. Now I'm going to change a couple of these consumables out. So we're going to remove the ceramic cup, and then this is a copper nozzle, and then here we have an electrode. That's where we get our spark initiating from. And these parts, they wear per start, not how long you run. Got our cup back on and our plasma torch is ready. All right, so now we're going to connect our air hose. We're ready to get it plugged in, and let's turn this machine on. All right, now we want to make sure we're set up for plasma cutting. This knob is our voltage, that matters, and our PSI. So depending on the thickness of your material and your machine, you can set these up. Now when you're traveling too slow, like I was here in this project, look at my spark patterns. They're straight, they're shooting straight down. My nozzle or my trigger is straight, everything's straight. I'm thinking I'm doing good. But then I quickly realized after I finished this cut, it didn't look good. My kerf was wider and I had a lot of slag. So I spent a lot of time on the grinder trying to get that fixed. Another thing that I have experienced is going too fast. Here, sparks shot up straight at me. Something wasn't right. I was not cutting all the way through because I was traveling too fast for the voltage or for the thickness of material. I may not even have my PSI right. Now what happened, obviously it didn't come off, so I had to go back at it again. Let me tell you, it wasn't pretty. So now, notice my trigger head here now. I got it at an angle. I'm slowing down a little bit, but now look at my spark pattern as well. They're trailing just behind the cutting area. And I found that this is to be a happy speed. Now we are cutting some pretty thick material. But for stick it is, popped right out, and you get really good, decent cuts. Very minimal time on the grinder, and it worked out. But it's all about practice and playing with your settings. Don't be afraid to play around with your machine. And I'm happy with that. A little bit of time on the grinder, getting this baby cleaned up, and it's coming along pretty good. Pretty soon, time for an edge. Okay, so as you can see, plasma cutting, it's really all about practice. As long as you have your air pressure and your voltage correctly on your machine, it's just a matter of practicing to get those nice clean cuts. I want to thank you for joining me here today on GCSAA Inside the Shop, where we're helping technicians one wrench at a time.